Welcome to the Reiki Coach on Call podcast. I'm Mary Riposo, a Reiki master, teacher, mentor, and author. And I give Reiki practitioners the tools they need to get their healing work out into the world. I've been getting a lot of questions about the business of Reiki lately, like how to start and how to know if it's right for you. So, in today's episode, I'll share my story of how I started my Reiki business. Hopefully, it will answer some of your questions and give you some inspiration. So, welcome into my office. I am sitting at my desk and I have a nice cup of tea. Today, I'm drinking chai tea, one of my favorites. And truth be told, I might even have an oatmeal cookie sitting next to it for later, but that can be our secret. I think I'm all set. So, grab a seat, pour a cup of tea for yourself, and let's talk Reiki. So let's travel back in time to a late October day in upstate New York. It was a cold and rainy autumn day. In fact, it was so cold I could see my breath indoors. I lived in a tiny studio apartment. That was before tiny house living was a thing. And my landlord had a policy of not turning the heat on until Thanksgiving, no matter what. But I was too sick to even call and complain. At that point, I'd been out of work for nearly 3 months with a mystery illness that no one could explain. I worked as a mental health therapist at our local hospital clinic. And that spring, the offices were renovated, exposing me to dust, paint fumes, and new carpeting. It started with a cough and congestion, then wheezing that hung on for weeks. All the while, I still kept going into work. Then all of a sudden, I felt like an elephant was sitting on my chest. I developed brain fog, vertigo, and I was so weak I couldn't even get out of bed. Everything my doctor tried seemed to make it worse. The antibiotics caused a strange rash all over my body. Just one nebulizer treatment kept me awake for 3 days straight. And the allergy injections caused me to go into anaphylactic shock. Nothing was working. Then, on that cold October day, I got a call from my boss telling me they couldn't hold my job any longer. I was devastated. I was left with a pile of debt, no job, and mysterious health problems that defied treatment. I couldn't help but wonder why this was happening to me, and I knew something had to change. I mustered all the strength I had and found an apartment about an hour away. It was in a newer building, and this time I made sure the utilities were in my name. I felt like having control over the temperature in my apartment was one step closer to having control over my life. Taking care of myself was foreign to me, but I took the next few weeks to rest and recover. I spent my mornings curled up, sipping mugs of warm chai tea and reading mystical fantasy novels. My new place was close to the village, so I visited the quaint shops when I felt good enough. And on one of my afternoon walks, I was drawn to a sign outside of the New Age bookstore advertising tarot card readings. I thought maybe a psychic reading could uncover the reasons for my suffering and reveal what I might do about it. As I stepped inside the small shop, the air was heavy with incense. Despite the dim lighting, I found my way to the back of the store. And there, a round, middle-aged woman with long silver hair sat behind a draped table. A scented candle illuminated the darkness. A wave of doubt moved through me. But just as I was about to turn around and walk back out, she beckoned me to sit down. The card said I was destined to become a healer. I corrected her on that. I could barely make it through the day without crashing. Really, the last thing I could see for myself was being a healer. After my reading, she handed me a postcard. It was for a holistic fair happening the next week. In a confident voice, she said I would find answers there. I left feeling angry that I had spent money on a reading that was so inaccurate with money I couldn't afford. For the following week, I found myself wandering through rows of vendors at the holistic fair. And at one booth, I stopped to pick up an amethyst geode. I felt the weight of it in my hands and wondered where it lived before someone pulled it out of the earth. It reminded me of my own situation. I was still feeling pretty ungrounded and disconnected. The sound of singing bowls brought me out of my daydream, and as I looked up, I saw a sign with the word Reiki in large purple script. A kind-looking woman wearing a long tie-dye dress said she could see me next. As I sat down and closed my eyes, the outside world gently slipped away. I floated on a soft cloud. My body was lighter, more relaxed, more alive. How could it be that after only 15 minutes of Reiki, I felt better than I had in years, maybe ever? There was one thing I knew for sure. I needed more of this in my life. And although I had no idea how I'd be able to afford it, I immediately signed up for weekly Reiki sessions. With each session, it felt like I was being plugged into an energy source much greater than myself. My health improved, and soon I got a job at another mental health clinic. But after only a few months, I found myself facing the same problems I had before. I knew I had to find another way, or this time I might not be able to come back from it. So I started working part-time and seriously thinking about another career. When I discussed it with my Reiki practitioner, she suggested I think about Reiki training. And although I still wasn't sure about being a healer, I signed up for her next class. And I spent the next 2 years completing my training and finally felt like I was on the right path. I lost weight, my health improved, and my mood lifted. And that's when I decided to make Reiki my life's work. But soon I realized it was harder than I thought. I knew how to practice Reiki, but being a professional was quite a different story. I just couldn't seem to figure out how to get clients, deal with money, or manage boundaries. There were other Reiki masters in my area with what looked like successful businesses, at least from the outside. I wondered what they knew that I didn't. I reached out, but no one returned my calls. I felt lost and alone. I secretly dreamed of someone magically appearing and hiring me to practice Reiki. Someone who would give me a check at the end of the week for doing what I loved. I just wanted to help people without having the hassle of setting fees and attracting clients. When I shared my feelings of self-doubt with my friend, one of them told me to use positive affirmations, and another suggested I put it out to the universe and wait for my desired results to show up. But none of that helped. I was exhausted, overwhelmed, and felt like a failure. I secretly thought that if I was just more spiritual or more gifted at Reiki, everything would just fall into place. And I wondered if there was something in my energy field or in my past that was blocking my success. I felt like an imposter and decided to give up my dream of practicing Reiki professionally. After a few months of feeling sorry for myself, I realized how much I missed Reiki and the way it made me feel. So I recommitted to daily self-treatments. Soon I started feeling better. And that's when I signed up for a small business training. It was in that class that I realized I had been blaming myself for something that truly wasn't my fault. My Reiki training had taught me the technical skills to practice Reiki, but didn't prepare me to open and run a professional practice. And it wasn't until I learned and implemented solid business skills that my practice began to thrive. I've seen many people take Reiki training, hoping to turn it into their work in the world, but because of a lack of business skills, they got tripped up as soon as they started. Most Reiki classes don't cover what records to keep, how to deal with money, how to advertise, create systems, operate within the law, or even how to deal with mindset and confidence issues. And most don't provide ongoing support. Of course, there's many reasons for this, like Reiki isn't regulated in most areas, so there's no set curriculum. Also, many Reiki master teachers don't have business skills of their own. And maybe most importantly of all, the skill set needed to practice Reiki and to run a business are completely different. So, I bet you're wondering what it takes to be a successful Reiki business owner. Well, I've created a quick start checklist for you, which is brought to you by the Grow Your Reiki Business book. The Grow Your Reiki Business book is perfect for you if you dream of having a successful practice but aren't sure where to start. If you cringe when you think of promoting yourself, marketing your business, or asking for payment, you'll love this book. I wrote this book for those who dream of getting their healing work out into the world, and it contains proven strategies to help get more clients and help more people without using any of the high-pressured sales tactics or spending hours on social media. I'll drop a link nearby for the Grow Your Reiki Business book, so make sure to grab it. Okay, so now for my quick start checklist on what it takes to be a successful Reiki business owner. I've boiled it down to 5 qualities I've observed from mentoring Reiki practitioners over the years. Okay, so they are: number 1, clarity. Why do you want to practice Reiki professionally? What brought you to Reiki in the first place? And what motivates you to want to share it with others? If you've never really thought about it, I'll tell you it's worth contemplating. Once you understand your why, everything you do in your Reiki business will flow from there. So, how do you find your why? Grab a cup of tea, a piece of paper, and a quiet space. And just ask yourself what benefits you might receive by having a professional Reiki practice. What would your life be like if you were able to share the practices of Reiki with others on a regular basis? More freedom, more control over your schedule. Write out your whys and post them where you'll frequently see them to strengthen your commitment. This can help motivate you when you start to falter. Okay, so now on to quality 2, determination. Practicing Reiki professionally is a commitment. It takes determination and a willingness to keep going when things get tough. But it can be a lot sometimes. Sometimes you bump up against an obstacle, like learning the tech to offer online sessions or getting past speaking in front of a group so you can teach classes, and it makes you want to quit. But the truth is, if you just keep taking small steps in the direction of your goals, you will eventually succeed. That's determination. But sometimes it takes trying something new because the obstacle you're up against isn't yours to tackle. Which leads me to the next quality needed for Reiki business success. Try new things. There is no foolproof recipe for Reiki business success. In fact, I can pretty much guarantee that you will fail, at least at some things. I fail all the time. I've offered classes where no one signed up. priced sessions wrong, and made tech mistakes on my website, among many other things. There's really no way around it. It's just part of being in business. So, if you're going to succeed as a Reiki business owner, you need to be willing to try something and have it not work out. The Reiki practitioners who succeed are the ones who don't let small failures stand in their way. Which leads me to the next quality for Reiki business success. Learn from your mistakes. So now that you know you will fail, what can you do when that happens? My best advice is to learn from it and keep trying. Ask yourself, what didn't work? What could I do better next time? What needs to be improved or changed? I know when something goes wrong, our initial tendency is to scrap it and go on to something else. But if you do, you could be missing out on an important lesson. I've had plenty of failures that ended up being great learning experiences. I'm a perfectionist, and it's hard not to scrap the idea that doesn't work the first time. But success doesn't come from just trying. It comes from trying and learning. Learning helps you grow and gain wisdom. And so the last quality is to ask for help. Sometimes it's hard to ask for help, but it's one of the most important things you can do as a Reiki business owner. You can't do everything yourself, nor were you meant to. In fact, if you try to do it all, your business will suffer. That's because, truthfully, you're not good at everything. If you stick to practicing Reiki and let others support you in doing the things you're not trained in, everyone will thrive. When you're practicing informally, it's all you. But when you take the next step and open a Reiki practice, it takes a bunch of specialized skills to make your business successful, like bookkeeping, marketing, graphic design, etc. If you're not sure where to start, I recommend hiring a mentor or coach who can help you create a plan for success. So, to recap, the 5 qualities of successful Reiki business owners are: 1, get clear on why you want to practice. 2, keep going when things get tough. 3, be willing to try new things. 4, learn from your mistakes. And 5, ask for help when you need it. I realize these things aren't easy, and to tell you the truth, I still work on them every day. And most of all, I want you to know you're not alone. I'm here to help. In the Reiki Coach on Call podcast, I'll demystify some of the business paths available to you as a Reiki practitioner, like offering sessions, teaching classes, selling products, or even hosting events. I'll tell you what you need to know to be successful on each path, and hopefully give you a dose of inspiration as well. I know you can do it, and I'll be here cheering you on. If you need a little more help, grab the Grow Your Reiki Business book or contact me to schedule a mentoring call. In the meantime, subscribe so you'll never miss an episode, and I'll see you next time for the Reiki Coach on Call podcast, where I'll spill the tea on offering Reiki sessions.